Seko Smith. He's busy. Lots happening. NBA.com, NBA columnist. Been a while. Sekou, how you been, buddy? Welcome back. What's happening?
I'm good, man. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. Enjoying all the rumblings, all the rumors. All right, set us straight, man. What's the story? D12, lesser extent Melo, Horford, T, Conley. Big names out there. What do you expect by 3 p.m. tomorrow? What's the biggest move that's going to happen?
Or nothing, because that's what I think.
Well, I mean, we get hyped up every year this time, about all these things that could happen. And then after the fact, we're all standing there wondering, like, why didn't this big deal? Why did that happen? But this time around, I really think Dwight Howard could get moved. Houston is desperate to change the chemistry in their locker room and on their team. And if they're going to do it, they need to find a way to get Dwight Howard out of there because he's clearly a guy who has his eye elsewhere, can opt out of his contract at the end of this season. And if he's not committed to being a Houston Rocket and playing on that team and helping them win, Houston has to move him. There's so many other, moving parts. You mentioned Horford and a lot of the other guys who could get moved. Maybe, maybe not. These teams are going to have to make decisions. The pressure of that 3 p.m. deadline tomorrow is what really starts eating at these GMs, between now and then. And I think we're going to see some guys crack. And if that happens, it could be a floodgate.
Sekou, tell me the real narrative on Dwight Howard, right? Because I'm trying to think back over the last 4 or 5 years of his career. Obviously, it was Orlando. They had a big win, beat the Cavaliers to get to the finals one year. But then he goes on this journey, and it's like he goes to L.A., he's bad fit. He goes to Houston, it feels like a bad fit. Now he seems like he's going to go somewhere else. He's aging. Who is he?
Well, you know what? That's a great question. It's one that he has to answer. The fact is, Dwight Howard never wanted to leave Orlando. And he was getting, advice from his representation that he needed to get out of Orlando to become a bigger star, which was foolish. At the time, he was the biggest star in the league. He had the most all-star votes of anyone. Everybody was paying attention to him. And, he threw it away, listening to the wrong people. And that's the bottom line. He threw it away, listening to people who didn't have his best interest at heart. Now he's been on a journey ever since trying to figure out how to find that place where he can get back to playing with a little bit of the, joy and ease that he played with in Orlando, and he's never been able to find it.
And even if he does, at this point, we all know he's a little physically diminished with the back surgery, so he's not quite what he was. So, it's an interesting dilemma for Dwight and really the Rockets. Seko Smith with us here, Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio. Seko, let me ask you this. I believe that one of the most important things in sports is to honestly self-assess, and teams who – maybe the fan bases still think they're within championship reach, but we know that they probably aren't. The better to start the rebuild than to add, a C-level or a B-level piece and fool yourself. And two teams that I think need to look in the mirror and realize where they are, Memphis and the Bulls. Window shut. They're not winning. I would strip it down. Do you think either team does?
I don't think they do, but I think they're both in need of a strip down. I really do. Memphis has an out in Marc Gasol getting hurt. So they kind of have, if they wanted to hit the reset button, nobody would blame them. Their style of play needs to change. Some of their pieces need to change, and I think anybody that's paid attention would understand that. The Bulls are in a bit of a different, pickle. They have so many guys on that roster that you expect so much more from them what they've gotten. And Joakim Noah's injury doesn't give them the out that the Gasols does, Memphis. And by the way it looks, this Bulls team has a small window, and they thought they had it under Tom Thibodeau. It's even smaller with this roster under Fred Hoiberg. Once it goes away, they're in danger of falling back of the pack in the East and falling out of that top mix. And if that happens, then you really got a problem on your hands because you got Derrick Rose coming up as a free agent in a couple of years, and you don't know what the identity of your team is. So it puts you in a horrible position going forward because you're just not sure who and what you are.
Sekou, when you look at the bottom of the Eastern Conference as far as the playoff race is concerned, it's Detroit, who made a move, obviously, a couple of days ago. And then the Charlotte Hornets. We were talking a little bit earlier about Michael Jordan's birthday being today, and he's 53 years old. But he kind of has this delusion that he's going to make a run. Is it possible for him to do anything in free agency, or not free agency, but it's trade deadline, that's going to give them a chance to get even to the second round?
I don't know. I mean, if they were to get Dwight Howard, I think it would give him a sense of that, but I'm not sure that's what the practical returns would be on that deal. I think Jordan is looking at something totally different, though. Not just the trade deadline, leading into this season, but what it does in terms of setting them up for the future.
Mm.
They feel like, and Rich Cho is really good at his job, guys. Don't get confused at the Hornets' lack of success and take that for, mismanagement up front. They just don't have great pieces. They've got solid pieces. And Rich Cho is trying to figure out a way to get a headliner in there. He needs somebody to not only give that team a real sense of who they can be, but to convince everybody else, fans and the rest of the league, that they're a serious player when they add a big-time player to that group. They need to really add somebody that's whose name can go on the marquee, to be honest with you. I love Kemba Walker and Al Jefferson, but they don't have a guy that screams, this is the Charlotte Hornets. They need a named player to give them, the gravity that they want as an organization. And until you get that, you do what a lot of other teams in the league do that don't have a superstar player. You build gradually, assemble pieces that can one day support a big-time star.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, they're certainly competitive, but they're largely anonymous. I think that's a good point in terms, the public radar and who's really marketable. A final thing for me, Seko Smith, NBA.com, covers the NBA, obviously, columnist with us here on Tiki and Tierney. It's been a while, so it's good to chat with him and catch up. A busy time around the circuit. I believe that Miami might be compelled to do something that ordinarily they wouldn't do, given the recent revelation with Chris Bosh's health. And while it looks like it's better, and Lord, we all hope it is, do they maybe do something just given that element of the unknown with Chris moving forward?
Yeah, I don't think they have a choice. And they're another team that's in danger of, Dwayne Wade's at a later stage of his career. And I don't think, you took some calculated risks bringing Goran Dragic in and paying him like he's a star player when I don't think he's a first-line star in this league. So you have to find a way to fix that without imploding your situation, because you don't have a young guy ready to take that torch from Bosh and Wade and be the new face of your franchise. Justice Winslow is probably a few years away from that if he's that guy. And Dragic, as I mentioned, I don't think is. You don't trust Hassan Whiteside. That's why you got him, in the trade crosshairs. Miami's in a very interesting and a precarious situation if they don't get it right, because, those 4 straight trips to the finals will look like ancient history in a couple of years if you fall back and you're fighting it out for the 8th spot in the playoffs every year.